I thought I'd talk about dealing with ignorant people. Now, this is something that I'm sure everybody has had to deal with, and a lot of us choose different ways to deal with it. The way that I deal with it as an older person is quite different from the way that I dealt with it when I was young. But I'm talking to the young and to the old. Especially those of us who claim to be God-fearing people. I won't say exclusively Christians, although that's what I am. I'm actually a Messianic Jew, for those of you who are not clear on exactly what I am. I am an Ethiopian, and many of us were Jews and are Jews. And some of us, a lot of us, are Messianic Jews, which means that we believe in the Messiah, Jesus Christ. And so we are Christian, Judeo-Christians. We believe in Christ, we walk the godly Christian walk, but we are practicing and observant Jews. So I do celebrate many of the Jewish holidays. I do observe the Sabbath as Saturday. And so there are certain things that come along with that. But that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is how to deal with ignorant people. And the reason I'm doing this is because the other day, sometimes I don't just look at my YouTube videos. Actually, I very rarely look at them once I've done them. I only go back to read comments and to reply to people who have questions. But I do look at other people's YouTube videos. And I saw a video where Oprah had went into a store in London. And no, it was in Italy. She went to a store to purchase a bag, and the clerk wouldn't sell her the bag. He told her it was only for Italian people, which was really ignorant. And apparently he didn't know who Oprah was. Not that it should make a difference, but he turned down a sale. And that's kind of contradictory. If you're a salesperson, I thought that's your job, to sell things. So it reminded me of an incident that I had in Victoria's Secrets years ago. I went in around Christmas time and I was looking at things because I was buying gifts, and I saw something that didn't have a price tag on it. So I went and got the sales girl and I said, "Could you tell me how much this is?" And she told me, "Well, it doesn't matter because you can't afford it anyway." And I was done. I was young. I was in my 20s, and I was crushed that she would say that, because I had a pocket full of money. I was working in hip hop at the time, and I was raking in a lot of dough, managing different people. Though you know my story, most of you know I come from that world, and so I was crushed, and I left. And at that time, cell phones, they were these big heavy things, so I didn't carry mine around. But I went to the corner and there was a payphone, and I called the manager, and I was in tears, and I was telling her, I said, "I can't believe that idiot told me I can't afford it. Do you know how much money, do you know who I am? Do you know how much money I have? Do you know who I represent? Blah, 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 blah." And so the manager, she heard me out, and then she told me, she says, "Come back to the store. Can you come back to the store?" And I said, "I could, but why?" And she says, "Because I'm going to make her apologize, and then I'm going to personally escort you around the store so that you can get whatever you want." And I have to say, I went back to the store, and that's exactly what happened. That ignorant girl came out of the clothes racks and was in front of me and apologized. And the sales manager escorted me and even carried my purchases as I picked up things, all my little gifts that I was getting. And I've been a loyal customer ever since, because I thought that showed a lot of class, and she didn't have to do that. But she obviously knew the meaning of customer service, and that's probably why she was the sales manager and not this ignorant girl. So I just want to say that, here now, this is maybe, I don't know, 20 years later, and I still, every now and then, encounter ignorant people. And you can't do anything about it. You know, if a person is an adult and they still haven't gotten it, chances are they're not going to get it. So beating them up is not going to beat intelligence in them, because my experience from when I was younger and got into fights is that you can beat a crazy or ignorant person up, and they're going to get up off the ground, and they're going to be just as, I won't say crazy, I don't like that term. They're going to be just as silly and ignorant as they were before you knocked them to the ground. It doesn't knock, you can't knock sense into people. I know we like to think that, but you just can't. So what do you do? What do you do when you encounter rudeness in places of business? My inclination is to walk out. My money spends everywhere. So if I walk in a store and a clerk is rude these days, I don't even make a big deal out of it. I am so glad to walk away and find another place that's happy to get my business. There are a lot of stores who are just hoping for your business. They're standing there at the doorway trying to get you to come in. They've got big sales on the window. They hope for customers, and they don't care who you are as long as your money is good. And that's the way it should be. But it's even bigger than that. Sometimes you have people who are just ignorant without cause. I have went through this at public and private functions where I've encountered people who just didn't know what to say. So instead, they would say something stupid. I was on the bus once when I was a lot heavier. I was on a bus once and I was all dressed up going somewhere. And this elderly woman who should have known better, but apparently she didn't, she looked at me, and after staring at me and making me really uncomfortable to the point where I almost asked her, is something wrong? She finally said, you know, for a big girl, you're very beautiful. And I thought that was kind of stupid, because why can't I just be a beautiful girl? Why do I have to be a beautiful girl for a big girl? So you had to throw that in to remind me. Do you think that big people don't know we're big? And she might as well have said fat, because people try to, you know, shave off some of the pain of calling people overweight by using terms such as big or thick or heavy, you know, or big boned. But we know what you're saying. And even now, I'm not as big as I was before, but I am what is considered thick. And I still don't like people to point that out, especially if you're going to target areas of my body. One thing that I find extremely ignorant is certain men, and not all men do this, but there are certain men who, when a woman passes by, they feel the need to comment on certain body parts. And as an older woman, I purposely, when I wear spandex or some other type of clingy material on my butt, I make sure that I have a top or a tunic or something that's long enough to cover my butt so that it's not on display. And that's for a lot of reasons. One, as a Christian woman, I don't think I should be out with the shape of my parts on display. And also, I don't think anyone wants to see my old sagging ass. And a lot of you other old birds out there, you need to cover that up. Nobody wants to see that. But men still will find a way. Those who are, I call them horn dogs, they just absolutely cannot see a woman passing by without making some sort of sexual comment. And I don't know if they think it's going to turn us on, which is just the opposite in most cases, or if we're going to view it as complimentary, which is also just the opposite in most cases. Most women, most of us, we dress for ourselves, not for you. And if we do look nice, we would prefer that you just said that rather than pointing out the particular object of your desire, because it's not going to get you any closer to it. So that, you know, is another thing. That how do you deal with that? And I've seen some women who actually turned around and cursed men out for saying things that they felt were disrespectful. And if you dare say it when the woman is in the company of her husband or boyfriend, you're likely to get a beat down. But that's not how you handle it. So my point is, how do we handle ignorance? Because it's everywhere we go. It's all around us. How do we handle it? Folks, there's a couple of things we can do. I pray. And I find that when you pray, especially if you pray the same prayers that are sustaining to you, that are helpful to you in this walk that you are walking, which is on a wicked earth that is filled with demons and principalities, you find strength in the repetition of the prayer, and it helps you to understand exactly what you are dealing with. And if you know your enemy, then you are better equipped to battle him. Let me say that again. If you know your enemy, you are better equipped to battle him. One of the prayers that I say is that though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh, because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And there's more to it. I'm going to post the actual verse up. But my point is that we have to acknowledge that this is not carnal warfare. The people that are spouting out these things, aside from the ones who have Tourette's syndrome, which makes them just blurt out things and it's a mental illness, but the ones who are in their so-called right mind, but they're just ignorant, most of the time, especially when it comes to just being very wickedly vocal in whatever it is that they're saying, these are spirits that have overtaken them, that have caused them to do this, either by their own upbringing and things they were exposed to. So now they blurt these things out to others, and they were taught that this is how you holler at a girl, and so they think that that's the right way to do it because that's what they've been around. Or they themselves have been abused in some way, and so they lash out at the world because they're angry at the world for whatever life has done to them. And these people, unfortunately, they need jobs, they have families they need to feed themselves. So we have to encounter them in the workplace, and sometimes they're our boss, sometimes they're a coworker, or sometimes they're that clerk in the store who just hasn't quite learned that this is your job, sweetie, and if you want to keep it, then you better learn how to talk to the customers, because it's not the customer's fault that you were abused as a child, or that your man left you, or whatever issue is going on. Or sometimes there's no issue. I've seen some of the prettiest girls who thought that it was chic to walk around with a stank attitude. What is that about? It immediately erases all your outer beauty. Nobody wants some spewing demon in their life. So no matter how beautiful the outside is, you're not going to keep a man with that stink attitude. No one's going to put up with that. Even the most unattractive, homely, broke guy, he wants to be happy. He doesn't want some miserable girl. He doesn't care how cute you are. Unless it's a person with extremely low self-esteem, no one's going to put up with your crap. So I want to say that leads me to my second prayer, which comes from Psalms 1, which is, "Blessed be the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners. For his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night." Now, you have to watch the company you keep. One of the prime enablers of ignorant people are others who encourage this behavior. I want to tell you something about the eagle. The eagle flies the highest among all birds. It reaches the highest heights. It can go miles above in the sky. And the only other bird that the eagle will encounter at those heights are other eagles. So if you find that you are surrounded by pigeons and hens clucking and turkeys and other lower fowl birds, then perhaps you're flying too low. And I say that to say that you have to watch who you're around and why are you around them. If you're not partaking of the wickedness that they are doing, birds of a feather indeed do flock together. So if you find that you are enabling people, and even if you're just a follower, which no one should ever be, the only one you should follow is Christ. But if you are inclined to follow people because you feel that this is the only way that you can be part of the people who you consider to be cool, the cool crowd, then you need to reevaluate, why do you need to follow people who are not leading? They're not going anywhere. I don't understand that. I wouldn't want to follow anyone who was not headed anywhere. And, if you're following a fool, then you're definitely not heading anywhere except into some foolishness. So, in summation, I want to say that, these are the end times. It's very apparent by everything that's going on around us. And we're either, Malcolm said it better than most when he said, if you're not part of the solution, then you are indeed part of the problem. So you don't want to be part of the problem. The main reason today that we have so many of us who are disrespected and not treated with respect, because a person who is not moral, they don't respect themselves, so they're certainly not going to respect you. But one of the primary reasons that we find ourselves the butt of a lot of jokes and the treatment that we get when we go into certain places is because the pattern has already been set by those who are ignorant. So people who don't know any better, they see one and they view all. They figure, you know what? That last black person who was in here was a thief. They were ignorant. And so the next black one that comes in here, I'm going to keep an eye on them. And I'm going to make sure that I don't relive that experience. And it's not necessarily the case, but they don't know any better either. They're ignorant. So, ignorance begets ignorance. And the only way we're going to break this trend is by carrying ourselves with respect, commanding respect, and not standing for disrespect and respecting each other. And when I say not standing for disrespect, I simply mean that you're not going to remain in the presence of people who are being disrespectful. If you're in a crowd and the people are acting ignorant and this is not the image you want for yourself, then you must separate from that crowd. Keep your circle tight and keep it filled with eagles that are soaring high above the madness. Okay, that's it for today. Remember, I love you. God bless. And I look forward to your comments. Thank you.